Every Sunday, we gather for more than just rituals. We come seeking something deeper, connections, meaning, transformation. That is what worship is really about. Worship challenges us to be vulnerable and grow, to be connected to mystery and miracle, to learn who we are in relationship to others, each other, and to the larger life. It may seem as though my job is to read all 23 pages of this script, the words that give us continuity and comfort every week, our welcoming remarks, people of all ages, children, young and old. We are a religion centered in love, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment, the music, the chalice lighting, singing our children out, and even the location of the restroom. And in some ways it is, but it is also much more. Worship leads create a space, a container, a vessel, for each of us to bring our unique set of needs, our questions, longings, sadness, and spiritual hunger. Our job is to hold them all, to set the desired tone, and to merge them with the needs of everyone else. I don't need to know what those needs are. You don't even need to know what they are. A good vessel creates a space for transformation and healing. It can invite us to the edge, the place where all genuine growth occurs. And transformation and healing are the reason that we are here. My job is to create that vessel and nurture it with the energy in this room. And I start crafting it as soon as I say, morning has come, Sunday is here, and I continue until I say, go in peace. The words that I say are a means to that end, but without a strong vessel, I'm just telling a story. It's just entertainment. When I'm in the pulpit, I see things from a different perspective, both figuratively and literally. I see who comes in late, who falls asleep, who's checking their email, and who's cuddling with the person that they came in with. If someone is sleeping, that means I'm doing my job. They feel safe enough to fall asleep. Or maybe they've been up all night for any number of reasons, and they still choose to come here. They could have slept in. The people coming in the door late, maybe they overslept, had a hard time getting the kids in the car, had a mini crisis just before they left, but here they are. They could have met friends for brunch instead. Checking their email, whether they're distracted, thinking about their family, work is piling up, or honestly, even just bored. They're here, and they don't have to be. They could have just stayed home. These things all tell me that I'm doing my job. The couple cuddling in the back, that's just the cutest thing ever. It warms my heart. But still, my absolute favorite is the person sleeping. I do have a hard time when people interrupt my service. It interrupts the flow of energy and puts a hole in my vessel. If it happens early in the service, I might be able to patch the hole and refill the vessel. Late in the service, probably not. And this makes it difficult for all of us to have our needs met. Sometimes I'm asked where I get my ideas for services. Friends send me things. I see others on social media, like this morning's story, or just a random rabbit hole. I do a better job when I preach about something that I'm passionate about, and my ideas generally start as a sentence or a paragraph that I read somewhere and thought, oh, that might make a good sermon. One of these was about Xander Moritz. While in high school in Sarasota County, Florida, he had been class president all 4 years, while being active in social justice causes, and was slated to give the commencement speech. Xander Morris also happens to be openly gay. He led a student walkout to protest the measure that banned teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity. He was the youngest plaintiff challenging Florida's Don't Say Gay law. A few weeks before graduation, his principal banned him from talking about his experience as a gay student or his role as a plaintiff in the lawsuit. His mic would be cut off. So he rewrote his speech in order to avoid being censored. After his opening remarks, he said, I must discuss a very public part of my identity. This characteristic is probably the first thing you think about when you think about me. He removed his cap and continued, "I have curly hair. I used to hate my curls. I spent mornings and nights trying to straighten this part of who I am. So while having curly hair in Florida is difficult due to the humidity, I decided to be proud of who I was and started coming to school as my authentic self." He goes on, "I work for change because there are going to be so many new kids with curly hair who are going to need a community, and they won't have one, and they will try to fix themselves so that they can exist in Florida's humid climate." Xander Morris just finished his junior year at Harvard, majoring in government. He's my hope for the future. Xander showed courage and creativity in his commencement address. He wasn't afraid to be his authentic self. By risking having his mic cut off, he also showed his vulnerability. Sometimes, in order to create change, you need to speak from your heart, to be authentic, to be vulnerable. It's the same with creating a strong vessel in a worship service. In order to do that, I need to open my heart to try and connect with yours. And I'm vulnerable when I do that. That's not easy for me to do, especially since Mary died. I've encased my heart in 2 feet of cement, and no one's getting in. But in order to do an authentic service, I have to do just that, open my heart to connect with you. And it's scary. Recently, the worship team was told that our worship calendar is unbalanced, that we've had too many curly-haired services. I guess that meant me, since no one else was doing any curly-haired services. I was told to cut back, to censor myself, to dim my light because people are saying that it was too much. I'll be honest, some of the comments hurt, but I needed to hear them in order to be a good worship lead, and I understood the need to keep the calendar balanced. The more I thought about it, though, the more I realized it just wasn't true. I've only done 2 services in the past year, and only one of them would be considered curly-haired. In comparison, during the same time frame, we've also had 1 climate action team service and 1 Native American service. Seems pretty balanced to me. Could we have had more targeted social justice services? Of course, but we would still have been in balance. I did notice, however, that we did 5 resistance services in a row in January. No, people were saying that those services were unbalanced. So no, the worship calendar is not out of balance. And I think we all would have preferred that people speak to us directly instead of triangulating. How could it be that people were saying that the calendar was unbalanced? How did they come to perceive that? There's no way of knowing without knowing the identities of the speakers, but I have a few ideas. I believe that my visibility in the social justice work that I do might have been lumped together and confused with the work I do on the worship team. I have been more visible lately between the responding to the anti-trans movement workshop and the lead up to Pride. I am an unapologetically open and involved curly-haired person. I need to be seen, to stand up and be counted now. Sometimes that's scary, but I do it anyway. I have to. As a member of the curly-haired working group, I gave a few social action moments, as can any member of a social justice team. I didn't make any more of them than any other group. I made announcements about the anti-trans workshop in Pride when I was in the pulpit, as either worship lead or worship associate, because it was my job to do so, along with reading any other announcements that day. Did it look like I was preaching about curly-haired topics because I was standing in the pulpit? I was not. I was not representing the worship team when I made those remarks, and I think that should have been clear. Or was it the flags? The Broadway Task Force has been working on a way to hang banners that represent each of our 4 main social justice groups. While they wait to receive them, I asked for 2 Pride flags to be displayed during Pride Month. It may be true that our programming is out of balance. You're hearing more about curly-haired events and training because our curly-haired team is either creating them or staffing them. We engage in education, training, and community outreach. As most of us have had facilitator training, we can rely on our own resources. We're an active team. Our members who attended the Responding to the Anti-Trans Movement training agreed with the Unitarian Universalist Association and Reverend Margaret that our congregation could benefit from more curly-haired training during these difficult political times. Instead of trying to center our curly-haired presence to make everything equal, wouldn't it be a whole lot more fun if we just got behind the other programming that we already have, and then show up, step up, and create more? Create the reality that you want to see in the congregation. One of the most satisfying aspects of serving from the pulpit is having visitors approach me after a service, thanking me for providing a mirror that reflects part of who they are. Almost every time that has happened, these visitors have become members. This is one of the reasons that it's important to have curly-haired visibility. I imagine that this is true in other areas. When we see part of ourselves mirrored, we feel comfortable and included. Is the people are saying coming from unconscious bias? Unconscious biases are stereotypes and prejudices shaped by societal conditioning. And we often don't even realize that we have them, but it can happen to any of us. That might be a factor here. We can all benefit from examining and challenging our assumptions from time to time. But I think the biggest factor might have been the pride lanyards. All of a sudden, the curly-haired people were visible in a way that we hadn't been before. We looked around the sanctuary, around the name tag board, and saw all the lanyards. It may have felt like a divide between us and them. Some of our curly-haired members have felt a need to be seen and transparent lately, to make a statement that we will not be erased. But it was not meant to separate us from the congregation at all. The lanyards were a way to be seen, and curly-haired members are not the only ones wearing them. But the visual impact of our numbers may have been surprising to many of us. Whether or not the lanyards have felt like a divide, they've been popular, and we've decided to expand the options. As Reverend Margaret mentioned this morning, we now have Side with Love lanyards. I can also adapt most lanyards to our name tags if you would like to express yourself in another way. Just ask me. I still struggle to understand what people are saying about worship being out of balance, even if they were reacting to programming. The deadly people are saying, when we don't know who said those things, this is triangulation. When we have a conflict with another person, but instead of approaching it directly, we bring a third person in. It's not a healthy dynamic, but most of us fall into that trap occasionally. People are saying may have only been one person or just a handful, but I have no way of knowing. That's the danger of triangulation. I don't know who the people are saying are. When we're in conflict, Unitarian Universalist calls for us to lean in, to talk to each other, to listen. But with who? I don't know, so I'm talking to all of you. I preach from my heart. I can't do it any other way, nor would I want to. My goal during my services is to connect my heart with the congregation, to be vulnerable, to help all of us receive whatever it is we need that day. And it's harder for me to do that while knowing that some of the people here think that I am causing imbalance. Reverend Margaret's expertise is in guiding congregation through times of transition, and she couldn't have arrived in a more apropos time. We have been in a time of transition since we moved. At the same time, we are experiencing political division in our nation. She has helped me to see that transitions create a disorienting time between what has been left behind and what is becoming. That can be challenging for anyone, and we're facing several changes right now. There's an urban legend that when a percentage of women in a group reaches 17%, men perceive them as making up 50% of the group. Although this may not be true, Reverend Margaret has noticed that when a minority segment of a population reaches a certain size, the majority starts to see their presence as changing the status quo. That might be welcome or unwelcome, but it's still a change and can make us anxious. Take the lanyards, for example. Their presence may have been interpreted by some as evidence of an increasing population, though in truth, that population was already here. And even if the change was welcome, it might still have felt unsettling. Often it's not the people that feel unfamiliar, it's the change that does. But change and anxiety aren't always bad. They can be a sign that something new is emerging. It can be the fertile ground of growth. Just like unconscious bias, we don't have to be fully aware of a transition for it to affect how we perceive what's happening around us. I think we could all use a little extra grace right now. We have successfully come through a major move, are settling into our new home, although there are still some tweaks needing to be made. We are enduring a major political upheaval. We need to recognize the effect that has on us. Let's try to invigorate our social justice work, and we can always benefit from examining our own unconscious biases. Above all, remember to breathe. We are all in this together. And don't forget, the next time I'm in the pulpit, make my day, fall asleep during my service.